Hey guys, so for this week I'm going to be cooking with Heather, and she's going to teach us about how to get beef smart. She's a meat science student at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and she is just really knowledgeable about meat science and really passionate about it.
Yeah, so originally I am from Orange County, California, and I found my way out to Nebraska through show cattle and the FFA. And I really found my home here just through a passion of raising beef cattle and being in the meat and beef industry in general. And Kaylee has really been a big part about me finding my home here, and I just have a really big passion for educating consumers on how to prepare their meat to the utmost quality so they can enjoy it and prepare it themselves at home. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm really excited for Get Beef Smart. On our menu for today is the Flatiron Steak. It was founded in part by the University of Nebraska Meat Lab, and that just hits right at home for us in our first video. So what's super interesting about this, prior to it being discovered, was that this cut used to just be made into ground beef. It is the second most tender cut in the beef animal. So it's just incredible that it used to just be made into ground beef, and now it adds such a value. The marinade that we're making today for our flat irons is a super simple one that's really just gonna highlight the natural flavors that are already in the flat iron steaks. You can see that the flat irons that we're using today are very well marbled. Marbling is the white flecks in the middle of the lean, and the more marbling you have, the more flavor that you're gonna have. So we're gonna start making our marinade by putting our flat iron steaks into 2 separate Ziploc bags, and this is what they're going to soak in for 2 hours after we prepare the marinade. You really want to be careful about your timing, because you don't want to let your steaks sit at room temperature too long, because that's the ideal temperature for bacteria to grow, and you do not want that. A lot of people think that salt just adds a salty flavor to your food, but actually, salt is magic. Salt makes food taste more like itself, and that's just incredible to me. Make sure you screw the lid back on tight so it doesn't screw up your life later. Chop up some rosemary, which is our first fresh ingredient. It's also used as an antioxidant ingredient in processed meats, and so that prevents the food from gaining an off flavor. We're using chives also in this recipe, purely for flavor. I find myself using garlic in a lot of the recipes that I have been making lately. I'm so used to my mom using some intense garlic flavors in her cooking when I was growing up. And that is because she grew up in an Italian household, and a lot of Italian flavors revolve around garlic. Today we're going to be using extra light taste so we don't get some intense olive tasting, but we still add the viscosity of the oil to our marinade. We're using Cabernet Sauvignon. And the purpose of alcohol in a marinade is actually for it to bind to the fat in the water in the meat. The alcohol will cook out, but you're still gonna get those immense flavors. Even if the recipe calls to use something, you don't necessarily have to use that. When you're cooking, like maybe not baking necessarily, but when you're cooking, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do and just do it to taste. That smells so good.
I got wine on my shirt.
I'm wearing an apron. So sometimes when you're very advantageous with the amount of food that you're gonna do on your grill in the summertime, you're gonna have to play a little bit of Tetris. because I touched raw meat with these tongs, I'm either going to wash them or use different tongs for when I touch the cooked product, because you don't want to cross-contaminate between raw and cooked. So right now I'm going to check the temperature on these steaks, and my goal is 140 degrees, which is medium rare. Steaks are safe at about 130 degrees, but just to have them a little bit pink but fully cooked, you want them at 140 degrees. To check the temperature, you want to go into the middle of the thickest part of the steak to make sure that it's safe. We're at 140, a little bit over, so we'll take that steak off. Perfect. Once you take the steak off, it will continue to cook just a little bit after that, but it will probably only get up to about 143, 145, and it will still be perfectly pink inside. So using a meat thermometer is great for food safety, and I don't have to cut into it. Not only is cutting into it more work, but when you do that, it loses a lot of the juiciness and the water that's in that cut of meat. The palatability of steak is built off of flavor, juiciness, and tenderness. Now this steak naturally has that flavor because of the marbling, and we already put such a good marinade onto it, and tenderness because of where it's located on the animal. But juiciness, that is very much reliant on how we prepare it, and we want to make sure that we do nothing to prevent it from not being juicy.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Get Beef Smart with Heather, and come back next month for another video.